How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.
the end. There's a noise inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final time. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final
What's up? What's up? What's up, everyone? Happy Monday. How's it going? Old Sub Sailor, thanks for being a member of the channel for 2 months. I've been here 2 months now, and my eyes are wide open. Shut up, listen, and learn. This is not a debunker own the lib space. Ask real questions. You know, it's funny, Old Sub Sailor. It's so funny because literally right before you sent this, as the intro was still playing, I was sitting here thinking, I swear to God, this is exactly what I was thinking, right? Like 2 seconds before you sent this. The amount of conservative retardation that I have to deal with on a daily basis would literally blow people's minds. You guys think you understand how stupid conservatives? No, no, you don't. I promise you. I promise you. There are very few people who have ever had to deal with anything close to the level of absolute conservative retardation and nonsense that I have to deal with on a daily basis. Literally. Reagan got a taste of it last week or a week or two ago. Reagan got a taste of it a couple weeks ago, and it almost broke her. And that was a teeny tiny slice of the amount of conservative retardation that I have to deal with on a daily basis. And right now the retardation is strong, guys. The retardation is strong. Like, I gotta tell you, like, conservatives are really convinced that, like, nothing really is happening and that this is just, like, they really do think that, like, owning the libs on Twitter is gonna solve things. And then they go, what have you done about it? And I'm like, motherfucker, what have I done? What have I done? I quit a very lucrative career as an organizational psychologist to go study the far left, to go into their meetings, to watch over 5,000 hours of their training, to go undercover at their events more than anyone else in the country that I know of has, to teach for free on the internet in the hopes that people will pay me if they find what I'm doing valuable. But I don't actually have, like, any sort of, like, you know, firm commitment to financial support or anything like that, because I put all my content out there for free, teaching free classes, spending all my time making clips, spending all my time streaming on the internet, doing things that most conservative retards would never dare dream to do. And you have the gall to say to me, what have you done? Bitch, please. That's the level of day that I've had. That is the level of day that I've had today. And if you follow me on Twitter, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But hey, it's not all bad news of the day. before we get into hardcore Antifa content, do you guys want to see my newest purse? I know you do. You want to see the newest bag? Guys, we talk about my bag collection on this channel because it makes me happy, okay? Because it makes me happy. Because having a bedroom full of like I counted the number of bags I currently have in my bedroom earlier, and I was a little bit embarrassed. I have to be honest. I was like looking at my bag collection earlier because I was rearranging it. I was looking at my bag collection and I was like, Karlyn, how many bags do you own now? And then I counted them, and I'm not going to tell you how many there are, and I was a little bit embarrassed by exactly how many fucking bags I own. But I have received the bag to end all bags, okay? I have wanted this bag for a while. I always had this bag in the back of my head as a bag I was going to get if it came up in an auction somewhere and I could get it at the price I want. Let me show you guys. Hang on. So this is a bag. This is a bag. This is not a bag that is going to, this bag is very rarely going to leave my bedroom. This is not a bag that you throw all your shit in and you wear. This is a collector's bag, okay? This is a collector's piece. This is something that is going to be displayed on my dresser and is very rarely going to leave, with few exceptions. I have been wanting to get this bag for fucking ever. I couldn't find it for any less than $2,000 online, and I'm not paying $2,000 for a fucking bag. I don't care how much I like the bag. I am not paying $2,000 for a bag. It's not happening. So I kept just like waiting for this bag to come up at an auction somewhere where I can get it potentially for like significantly less money than other places online. This is a limited edition Gucci, and it's glorious. It's glorious. Limited edition large Gucci Sylvie in gray, which isn't usually a color that they use on this particular bag, with sequin flowers on the front of it. And it's brand fucking new. Even though I got it in an online auction and it's technically like pre-owned, it's brand new. Do you want to know how I know? Because the wrapping was still on the handle and the strap when I got it. I literally took the wrapping off of this thing. This is brand fucking new. And I'm just like, I saw this in an auction last week and I about died. I was like, oh my God, it's going to be mine. And now it is mine. And now it will sit on my dresser and I will look at it and I will love it. And I will occasionally hold it and look at myself in the mirror. I'm not really going to wear this thing outside though, because this is a collector's item. This is not a bag. This is something I might put under glass. This is the most expensive fucking bag that I own. Like if you got it in the store, this is thousands and thousands and thousands. This is I think it's like $5,000 in the store or something. This is a fuck off expensive bag, and now it's mine. And I got it for way less than it's in the store, and that just makes me happy. You know, part of the fun of like buying all these bags is like sourcing them for like absurdly low prices. Like that's part of the fun of it. So that is the piece de resistance, latest edition of the collection. What did I pay for it? I paid about $800 for it, and I don't regret any of it. I paid about $200 more than I wanted to pay for it, but that's okay. That's okay. That's fine. You cannot find this bag for less than $1,600 online. So, W me, and my new bag. And Whatnot is the best. And the only reason I have this bag is because of Whatnot. And you know, you should all get on Whatnot, and it's the best. Let me just put it back in the dust bag and put it gently on the floor. Before it returns to a place of honor. No, like you don't even know. Like, yeah, like listen, I know that $800 is like a lot for a bag. It is a lot for a bag. It's a lot for a fucking bag. But it's a collector's item. Okay, in perfect condition, and I wanted it. And you know what? You guys have been so generous supporting my work lately. I finally, for the first time in fucking years, have play money that I can do shit with, and that's cool. And that's rad. So I appreciate all you guys supporting my work. You can see the chat on the screen now. Let me grab some of these super chats. More money for more purses. Yeah, see, you guys are my enablers. You guys, my husband, by the way, is also enabling this. I was talking to him about it, like we were talking about it the other day. He's like, Karlyn, what is the use of having money if you can't buy things you want? And I'm like, this is why I married you, Victor. This is why I married you. Thank you so much for enabling my collection. Johan, thanks for the 20. Hi, Karlyn. Calling myself out here. I blocked you on Twitter. Johan, that must have been a mistake that I made. There must have been a misunderstanding. Let me know your name in the chat and I'll unblock you. It's not like obviously I made a mistake. So it does happen. I do make mistakes every now and again. I don't recall blocking you, but put your handle in the chat. I will make sure you get unblocked. It's not that big of a deal. But thanks for the 20. I really like that. I really like that. All right. Yeah, Victor, well, Victor has a whole fucking Lego collection. And I enabled Victor with the Lego collection as well. I bought Victor most of the Lego collection, but I know the cost of some of those Legos, and some of those Lego sets that I bought Victor, they rival the cost of my bags. Okay, some of them are even more. Actually, the last Millennium Falcon set that I got Victor was more expensive than that bag. So I think Victor might actually still be winning on this one. Thanks, J. Lou. W for J. Lou over on Rumble, gifting a channel membership. Really appreciate that, bro. Thanks so much. All right. As Johan. Yo, we got Cynthia. W's for Cynthia in the chat with the 5 channel memberships. Thanks, Cynthia. I really appreciate it. Let me get you unblocked. Let me unblock Johan real quick. I truly don't remember blocking you, bro. I really don't. I do not remember blocking you at all, but you are now unblocked. Welcome back. I will even follow you as penance for wrongfully blocking you. Thank you for supporting my work. I appreciate it. See, that's all that's required. Yo, what? Are we doing a bunch of gifted channel memberships already? W's for Cynthia again for another 5 gifted channel memberships. We got Dorfus in with the 5 gifted channel. So you guys are enabling me. W's for Dorfus, another 5 from Cynthia. That's 15 for Cynthia already. W's for Cynthia in the chat. You guys rock. You guys rock. You guys are the best. Here's what we're doing today. Here is what we are doing today. This is going to be a research day in which we are going to read some Antifa propaganda. Who's ready to read some Antifa propaganda? You know who's ready? Cynthia's ready. Now, another 5 gifted channel memberships. W's for Cynthia in the chat. Another 5er. Really appreciate that, Cynthia. You are the best. Who's ready to read some Antifa propaganda today? You guys ready to do that? It's going to be awesome. So Antifa, so for people who don't know, CrimethInc is Antifa's publishing arm. CrimethInc is like when something gets published on CrimethInc, it is read by Antifa members all over the country. It is a very, 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 very influential website when it comes to the far left. So when we want to know what the far left is doing and what they're planning and what they're doing next, the very first place we go is CrimethInc, because if you read what CrimethInc is saying, you know what the people on the far left are reading, which means you know what is going to come next. Do you know why I was talking about leftist anti-ICE organizing literally before every single person on the internet? Because I've been talking about leftist anti-ICE organizing for a year. I started covering the left's anti-ICE organizing efforts a year ago, a full 6 months before anyone on the conservative right even knew what was going on. We got W's in the chat for Wolf with the 5 gifted channel memberships. You rock, Wolf. Thanks so much. The reason that I knew what the left was doing in regards to anti-ICE organizing is they were publishing about it on CrimethInc. It wasn't some super secret thing. They were talking about it in the open. I just happen to know where to look when it comes to like leftist publications and stuff like that. So that's why I was talking about this literally before anyone else on the flipping internet. That's why I'm always ahead of everyone when it comes to the far left, because even if I sit here on the internet and say, guys, do you know how I know what the far left is doing? I read this website right here. Most people won't actually do it. That's the biggest mindfuck of all that you really need to understand. All the information I present to you guys is publicly available. I just know where to look for it. I can point out to conservative influencers, go here, read this, go here, read this. And they won't do it because they are lazy and they only respond to clickbait content on Twitter. And if they have to leave Twitter to go to a different website and actually read information, and by the way, Antifa doesn't always have the most approachable writing style. The left has a very distinct writing style. It comes out of academia. You'll get used to it after a while. Like I have a PhD. I know how to read academic. I know how to write academic. It's not a big thing for me. But if you are new to reading the far left, or if you didn't go to college, and by the way, no shade on people who didn't go to college. I'm not trying to shit on anyone. I'm just trying to explain that when you go to college, you learn how to write in a very specific way and you learn how to speak in a very specific way. And that way that you learn to write and speak heavily influences how the far left shows up in the world. So if you have not had those experiences, then you might not, it might be very confusing to you because it is a different language. That's not to say you're dumb or anything. No one's saying that. I'm saying that it's just a different language. I know how to speak it because I was in academia for a really long time. Some people do, some people don't. Anyway, the point is that if you want to know what they're doing, you read this website. And you read it even when it's boring, and you read it even when it's written in flowery language and all of that stuff. And you do it because you want to know what's going on. Because if you can get through all the flowery language and all like their propensity to use 18 words to say something that they could say in 3 words or less, like once you get through that, you become years ahead of everyone else in terms of understanding what's going on. So there's a couple new articles on CrimethInc that I do want to take a look at. The first article isn't even this one. It's this one. Crowd control, appeasement, vanguardism, and the general strike. So this is about, so you guys know how there was a mass general strike on Friday in Minneapolis, and then they tried to do it nationally as well. An interesting thing happened because there was infighting between the different groups on the left. There was infighting between the PSL and Antifa, which there usually is. That's not new. But there was also infighting between some of the immigrants' right groups and the PSL and other groups that were organizing the mass general strike, because the immigrant rights groups didn't feel it was properly organized and they were pissed off that they were going through with it. And then the other group said, why the fuck are you trying to ruin our organizing? And so they started actually fighting between themselves. Now, this is not infighting within the groups. I need to make sure this is clear to people. This is not infighting within the groups. This is infighting between the groups. There are tons of different groups on the far left. And when I say far left, I mean reformist and revolutionary socialists and communists. I mean people who want a post-capitalist society. I'm not talking about Democrats. I'm not talking about liberals. I'm not talking about progressives. I'm talking about people who want to overthrow the government, overthrow our way of life, and create a post-capitalist society. These are democratic socialists and revolutionary socialists. But even within those groups, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of not even just Antifa, of cells, we're going to call them, because not all of them are Antifa. There are thousands of cells within those groups. And those different cells sometimes fight with each other. That doesn't mean there's infighting within the groups. It doesn't mean there's infighting within the DSA or in the FRSO or within the PSL or within Antifa. It means the groups are fighting each other. Does that make sense to everyone? Let me know in the chat. 1 in the chat if that made sense to you. 2 in the chat if you're confused. Pete, thanks so much for the super chat. If a revolutionary activist gets shot by ICE and dies during a direct action event, does he get rewarded with 72 trans women in the afterlife? I don't think so, Pete, but I understand the joke you're making. Thanks so much for the money. I appreciate it. So I have not read this Antifa document yet, but I'm pretty sure that this Antifa document was written in response to the fighting between the groups over this mass general strike. And we're going to get the Antifa perspective on what this infighting looks like. And again, I hesitate to use the word infighting specifically because it's not within the groups, it's between the groups, but it's infighting within the general mise-en-scène of like the far left. And what's going to happen here is there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser. And whoever wins this little fight that the far left is having, that is the strategy they're going to move forward with. Okay? So that's going to be an important document to read. We also have some other stuff we can look at. We can look at crossing the line. Is it really safer at the front surrounding the Portland ICE facility? We can look at this new document they just released, I think, today. They're tear gassing children. Well, is that actually true? I mean, probably not. But like this is the Antifa perspective. So that's what we're going to do today, guys. We're going to read some Antifa documentation. We're going to see how much we get through. Now, there's a couple other things going on. Mercado was supposed to start streaming like an hour ago. So Mercado, per usual, is not leaving his house, but he was supposed to start streaming an hour ago and doing some ice raids. But even more importantly than that, Mercado is scheduled to be streaming at 9:30 p.m. tonight for a noise protest. So it looks like we might have another noise protest tonight. Now, of course, 9 p.m. is movie night in my supporter Discord. MacB is watching. Is MacB still watching Downton Abbey, or is he watching something else now? I think MacB has moved on to something else. I just forget what it is. Anyway, there is a movie night in my supporter Discord at 9 p.m. tonight. I want to encourage everyone to go to it if you have access to the supporter Discord. But Fallout. Oh, MacB is watching Fallout now. Okay, good. But I will be covering the noise protest if there's a noise protest on, and I'll get a headache. And oh, really? He got in a car accident? Did that just happen? Seriously? Well, I hope someone's covering that noise protest. Good luck, Mercado, getting into a car accident. Huh. Interesting. So that's coming up later tonight as well. I also wanted to show people, is Mizakan here? Mizakan, are you here? This I wanted to show to Mizakan specifically, and I can't just DM him like a normal person. I'm just going to show him on stream. But you guys will find it interesting as well. So I just want to see Mizakan, paging Mizakan. He's not here. God damn it. Well, okay, we'll send this to him. I just want you guys to know that there's a new document that just got added to the Anarchist Library. And there's something in it I want to point out that I know Mizakan will get a kick out of, but you guys will appreciate it too. It's called Good Cop Radicals, How the University and Nonprofits Make Counterinsurgents Out of Middle-Class Leftists. And there's one section in particular. We're not going to read this because it's long and it's complicated, but look at this. Whiteness is counterinsurgent. There is an entire section in this document titled, Whiteness is Counterinsurgent. So for people who don't know, whiteness, white supremacy, racism to the far left, it has nothing to do with skin color. It has everything to do with capitalism. Do you support capitalism? Are you a property owner? Are you a business owner? Do you support the norms that uphold capitalist society? When the left says whiteness, race, white supremacy, they are talking about systemic racism. They're not talking about individual race. They're talking about systemic racism, the system that upholds racism. The system that upholds racism is, of course, capitalism, because the left believes that you cannot have racism without having capitalism, and you cannot get rid of racism without overthrowing capitalism. So I thought it was pretty funny to see a document with the headline, Whiteness is Counterinsurgent, because guys, by being counter-revolutionaries, as we all are if you're on this channel and you oppose what the far left is doing, we are all counterinsurgents. We are all embracing our whiteness. And whether or not you are actually physically white or European or like whatever, it doesn't actually matter. You could be black and be white according to the left. You could be Mexican and be embracing your whiteness according to the left. You could be Asian and being white. You could be literally any fucking skin color in the world and still embrace whiteness to the far left because you are protecting the pillars that uphold capitalist society. So I just thought everyone would like to know that to be a counter-revolutionary, to be a counter-insurgent is to embrace your whiteness. And whiteness is available to people of all skin color. We know that because Cheryl Harris told us so in a speech she gave at UCLA Law School in 2014 that I have on video on my Substack, and I've told many, many times. But Cheryl Harris literally said, you can be black and be white too. Because it's not about skin color. It's about capitalism. Always has been. Anyway, I thought you guys would get a kick out of that. If you want to support the work I'm doing and keep me in business, the very best place to do that is over on my Substack. That is Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Sign up for a membership, $8 a month, $80 a year. I am 100% funded by you guys. I cannot do this without you. So please make sure to financially support the work if you can. If you cannot, please make sure you're liking the content, sharing the content. I want to keep the content free for everyone, and you guys help me by doing that, by sharing it, liking, all that good stuff. So please make sure to do that. All right. I would really appreciate it. All right. Let's get into our Antifa stuff, shall we? Yes, Reagan. Yes, in fact, there is. Minimally, hang on. Minimally, there will be a spy stream tomorrow. So I will post more information about it tomorrow. Minimally, there will be a spy stream tomorrow with the potential of other spy streams happening this week. I guess we'll have to see. Keep an eye on the announcements. Anyway, let's get into this. We are going to start by reading this document right here. Again, this is an Antifa document posted on the Crime Think website. Crime Think is Antifa's publishing arm. Crowd control, appeasement, vanguardism, and the general strike. I already did, bro. I already did. Rewind. I revealed the purse at the beginning. It was the very first thing we did. Rewind. Start at the start. You can come back here when you see the purse. The purse is great, by the way. The purse is awesome. All right, let me get my natural reader out and we can read this document.
Crowd control, appeasement, vanguardism, and the general strike. An analysis from the Twin Cities. In the following analysis, participants in the resistance to immigration and customs enforcement operations in the Twin Cities reflect on the lessons of the strikes of January 23rd and January 30th, looking for ways to expand and strengthen the movement.
So this is basically like an after action report. It's like, guys, here's what's going on and here's what we're going to do about it. I'm going to put the document link in the chat in case anyone wants to follow along on their screen. This is what we're reading. So if you guys want to follow along with this, here is the link, and I'll put it on Rumble as well. Pin it. Let's see, make sure that's pinned on the YouTubes.
In the following analysis, participants in the resistance to immigration and customs enforcement operations in the Twin Cities reflect on the lessons of the strikes of January 23rd and January 30th, looking for ways to expand and strengthen the movement. On January 23rd, 2026, a general strike against the ICI...
Chicken Spawn, you're doing a great job. Don't change a thing. You are perfect. Don't worry about it, bro. I will tell you if I want you to stop doing something, so don't worry about it. Honestly, you're doing just fine.
On January 23rd, 2026, a general strike against the IC occupation paralyzed the Twin Cities. 7 days later, a second strike took place on January 30th. The first of these mass strikes drew significantly more participants than the second. A poll conducted by participating labor and faith organizations reports that 23% of registered voters participated in the first strike in some way, a figure that does not even include vast sectors of.
That's crazy. A poll conducted by participating labor and faith organizations reports that 23% of registered voters participated in the January 23rd strike. That's actually crazy. That's insane. I'm going to pull that up to look at later.
Poll.
No, keep reading. Clicking on a single word has totally fucked up the reading thing. Hang on one sec. I might have to reload. Need to reload. There it goes. We're back.
Crowd control, a poll conducted by participating labor and faith organizations, reports that 23% of registered voters participated in the first strike in some way, a figure that does not even include vast sectors of the working class, such as undocumented workers, young people, and tens of thousands who are understandably disillusioned with the political system. Extrapolating from those polls, which indicated that 38% of those who participated in the strike in some way actively refused to work that day, we can conclude that over 300,000 people withdrew from the economy on January 23rd in the Twin Cities alone. A major Somali...
You guys aren't gonna fucking believe this. You guys are not gonna fucking believe what just came up on my Twitter. Okay, this is separate from what we're doing right now, but I have to show this to you guys because it's so fucking crazy that, like, I can't even deal. I cannot even deal. So who remembers when that psychotic bitch Tor, the like a couple weeks ago, that psychotic woman Tor kept like screeching all over the internet that I was stealing her work when I was talking about a meeting that had nothing to do with anything she had ever recorded. Like, it was so fucking laughable that this woman thought I was stealing her work. She didn't bother to do a basic fact check into what even happened. So, what you guys remember when this happened a couple weeks ago? Okay, well, check this out. Check this out. So I posted a picture of that new Gucci bag on Twitter earlier. Look at this response. Look at this response. So odd. Tor also has a love of handbags, and she discusses them often. Almost like you're mimicking her platform. So now Tor's psychotic lunatic fans are insinuating that I am copying her by collecting handbags that, and by the way, just so people understand, just because I started recently talking about the handbags doesn't mean I haven't been collecting this stuff for like a while. I have all sorts of weird shit going on in my life you guys don't know about. I just started talking about it recently because it was fun. And Tor's psychotic lunatic fans think that the only reason that I collect limited edition handbags is because Tor, I don't even watch Tor's stream, so I had no fucking idea she talks about handbags. Are you like, yeah, like, excuse me, do you know that no other women in the world like handbags, guys? It must just be me and Tor. We are only two women in the world that like handbags. Do you know she also breathes air and I breathe air too? Does she also drink coffee? Like, it's like, yeah, okay. Okay. All right. I just had to show that to you guys because this is the type of retardation that I have to deal with on the internet on a daily basis. And I just want you all to be grateful and appreciate what I go through for you. Okay.
A major Somali shopping center called Carmel Mall closed for the day. Daycare centers were forced to close when their staff demanded the day off. Workers forced a major AT&T call center to close. The biggest nursing home in the Twin Cities metro area held mandatory all-staff meetings to threaten to fire employees who participated. But those scare tactics failed, and they faced mass absenteeism. The combined population of Minneapolis and St. Paul is less than 750,000. That Friday, we saw an estimated 100,000 people take the streets in sub-zero temperatures. It is safe to conclude that at least 1 out of every 8 Twin Cities residents took part in the general strike. Most of what we have done here since the federal attack on the Twin Cities began has been reactive. We have organized rapid response networks to document IC and confront their operations. We have driven them out of areas after they shoot or murder people. We have attempted to blockade their headquarters. The really exciting thing about the general strike was that it was proactive. By withdrawing our participation from the economy, we were exerting pressure not only on the Trump regime, but on the capitalist class that backs it and the Democratic politicians who have largely stayed out of its way or actively assisted as its bounty hunters have kidnapped our neighbors and terrorized us. If we are to reach a future in which we are not at the mercy of a totalitarian police state, we will have to develop our ability to engage in collective actions like the general strike of January 23rd. We have to become capable of proactively exerting leverage upon our adversaries, fracturing their coalitions, and ultimately breaking their grip on power. What could hinder us from doing this? Appeasement. The second general strike was also massive.
Why don't I ask an AI how this ends, because I'm not a retard and I do my own research? Guys, you guys know AI gets shit wrong like all the time, right?
The second general strike was also massive, though significantly smaller than the first. Estimates of the crowd sizes downtown range from 20,000 to 30,000 people, depending on the source. A number of factors account for this discrepancy in size. First, the general strike of January 23rd had been called at least 10 days in advance, whereas a call for the January 30th strike went out only 5 days ahead of time. But this alone cannot explain the difference. In times of extreme urgency and anger, actions that are called immediately sometimes turn out better
Thank
than
you.
actions that are called
Appreciate
too
it.
far in advance. The general strike of January 23rd occurred at a high point of organically building momentum when people were desperately looking for a way to take action. The strike of January 30th occurred when politicians had
I want to point something out. We're going to go back a moment, because they're comparing. Okay. So the left has done what they call mass strikes the last 2 Fridays. A mass strike is when they say, we're not going to go to work, we're not going to go to school, and we're not going to spend money shopping and stuff like that. They did one on January 23rd, and they did one on January 30th. The one on January 23rd was ginormously large. The one on January 30th was also very, very large, but it was not as large as the one on January 23rd. One of the things I want to point out is, because I saw pundits on Twitter saying this on January 23rd when the left had this big fuck off protest. They were like, how did this just pop up out of nowhere? These must be paid protesters. Well, no, assholes. No. They were organizing for the January 23rd protest 10 days in advance. They were advertising the January 23rd protest in all their fucking leftist groups, in all their fucking leftist chats, all over the fucking left, especially in Minneapolis. They were doing that for a week and a half. It didn't just pop up out of nowhere. Remember, guys, we learned yesterday that in Minneapolis, they have 80,000 people in those rapid response groups. If you missed it, let me just play this. It's pinned to the top of my Twitter. You can find the clip on the YouTube channel as well. But in case people missed it, this is from a spy stream we did yesterday.
So my name is Greg Namaker. I am president of SEIU Local 26. The mutual aid system now that has been built has over 80,000 people that are on active signal groups right now in just Minneapolis and immediately close by areas. That is, depending on your measure, a very high percentage of the overall population of the city. 30,000 folks have been trained as legal observers. Over 3,000 people are on school shifts each week to do the mutual aid. Again, just at Local 26, we have over 80 members that are being taken to and from work every day by volunteers. So it's just breathtaking, the amount of folks, and that is just from Local 26's perspective. All the other folks on this call from Minnesota, I'm sure could talk.
So they have 80,000 people in those signal groups. Do you want to know how they were able to organize a giant mass strike on January 23rd? Because they have 80,000 radical leftist activists in those signal groups, and they were promoting it for 10 days prior to the event. Do you want to know why the one on January 30th was a little bit smaller, although still pretty large? That was a very large protest last Friday. It was not a small protest. It just wasn't as big as the one on January 23rd, because the different groups on the left were fighting. They were only promoting it for 5 days. They just didn't the mistakes were made on the one on Friday. Although even with the mistakes that they made, that still was a huge protest that should not be dismissed. But I want people to know that, because I saw so many right-wing commentators on Twitter say, How did this protest just happen? It didn't just happen. It didn't just happen. They were organizing, they were doing anti-ICE organizing for over a year. They were doing those, they've been building out those fucking signal groups for over a year. They have 80,000 active people in those signal groups in Minneapolis alone. That's one city, guys. One city. You want to know how they were able to organize a fuck off giant mass general strike like pretty quickly? Because of the signal groups and the year of organizing they did leading up to that point. It didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It wasn't conjured up by a magical fucking spell. They're not paid protesters. They were doing this for over a year to be able to get to this point. Welcome, Birdman Racing, to the cult. We appreciate you being here. Your life is over. You're never leaving. You'll never see the world the same way again, but you'll have friends in the Marxist revolution, so that's pretty cool. Juan, thank you for the super chat. I've learned so much here, and I'm trying to get the message out about the true nature of what we're facing. It's like shoveling shit against the tide. Yo, don't I know it, Juan? Don't I know it? Welcome to my world, Juan. This is my struggle. This is it right here. Getting this information out there in a world that doesn't want to fucking listen. Anyway, let's continue.
The general strike of the general strike of January 23rd had been called at least 10 days in advance, whereas a call for the January 30th strike.
Hang on. Bro, I have known about this signal groups for months prior to you guys finding out about them. If I knew about the signal groups for months prior than to you guys finding out about them, and the FBI didn't know about the signal groups prior to when I knew about the signal groups, do you think I have any faith at all that the FBI is going to investigate 80,000 people in a single city? Do you think I believe that's going to happen? No, that's retarded, bro. That's actual retardation.
First, the general strike of January 23rd had been called at least 10 days in advance, whereas a call for the January 30th strike went out only 5 days ahead of time. But this alone cannot explain the difference. In times of extreme urgency and anger, actions that are called immediately sometimes turn out better than actions that are called too far in advance. The general strike of January 23rd occurred at a high point of organically building momentum, when people were desperately looking for a way to take action. The strike of January 30th occurred when politicians had managed to undercut this momentum. Movements often contract after they appear to have won concessions in this case. The demotion of Border Patrol Commander-at-Large Greg Bovino and hollow promises from Democrat politicians to negotiate for some guardrails around icy activity. Any apparent victory, however symbolic, functions as a pressure valve to diminish the urgency that people feel. Although the people of the Twin Cities have experienced horrific violence at the hands of IC for months now, the replacement of Bovino with border czar Tom Homan has given local politicians an opportunity to assert a new narrative, with Governor Tim Walz calling for a return to normalcy. At best, this will mean a kinder, gentler Gestapo. Both Donald Trump and the Minnesota Democrats have a stake in turning down the temperature, even if that means that IC abductions continuing by the thousand. One local Twin Cities group speculates that Walz and Trump are already working together to keep the IC operation going in a slightly...
Antifa believes that Tim Walz is working hand in hand with Donald Trump to keep the ICE operation going because Antifa hates the Democrats. The Democrats hate Antifa. They are not friends. They do not work together. The Democrats do not advance the talking points Antifa wants them to advance. Antifa is not useful idiots for any of that stuff. You're seeing in Antifa's own documents, they're like, Donald Trump and Tim Walz are basically working together on this, even though we know that's not true. But that is their perception because Antifa and the far left hates the Democrats way more than they hate the conservatives. Like way more. Excuse me, you misunderstood. No, girl. You're the one misunderstanding here. Do you know where you are right now? The FBI is definitely investing this group chat. Yeah, if you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you, but but they will get the major players. Oh, honey, that's not how this fucking works. There are no major players. There are no leaders. If they arrest someone, guess what? They've immediately got someone else taking their place. They are non-hierarchical. They are decentralized explicitly for this purpose. Try to learn something. Listen. For all the new conservatives here, I need every new conservative to pay very close attention to this instructional video that I'm about to play for you. Guys all paying attention? I need you to listen.
You take your top lip and connect it to your bottom lip, you will shut the fuck up. Sometimes shutting the fuck up is the best thing you can do.
We are currently reading Antifa documents. We are analyzing what Antifa is actually saying and distributing in the real world. I am not going to deal with conservative whining and retardation in my chat. Your job is to literally shut the fuck up and listen and ask questions if you have questions related to what we are reading right now.
One local Twin Cities group speculates that Walz and Trump are already working together to keep the IC operation going in a slightly less controversial manner. We can infer the nature of the deal Walz made with Trump from the things we have seen over the last 6 days. Border Patrol have abandoned their previous function as crowd control at ICE's local headquarters, the Bishop Henry Whipple Federal Building. Now, they have ceded that role to Hennepin County sheriffs. In the past, we've seen these sheriffs wearing standard blue police uniforms. This morning, when they beat and arrested at least 5 protesters outside Whipple, they were dressed up in tactical gear, green uniforms, and masks. They looked almost indistinguishable from the BORTAC officers they are replacing. It seems clear that Walz offered up his own stormtroopers to replace Trump's, so that Operation Metro Surge can continue unabated, and he can save face by pretending that the worst of the federal invaders have gone home. Even if the Democrats get iced.
Walz offered up his own stormtroopers to replace Trump so that Operation Metro Surge could continue unabated. They literally believe that Tim Walz is a Republican, guys. Well, they believe that Tim Walz is actually a fascist, but they're no fan of him.
Even if the Democrats get IC to behave more politely, that should appease no one. If all that the Trump administration has to do to normalize putting thousands of IC agents in the streets is to start by doing so with unhinged violence and then retreat to a slightly less provocative approach, they will repeat that tactic all around the country. There is no appropriate role for IC. Donald Trump has channeled so many billions of dollars to IC for the purpose of building a private army with which to mete out repression targeting scapegoats and political enemies alike. The road to fascism is paved with reforms that pacify people just long enough to tighten the vice, rather than trying to reform institutions that exist for the sole purpose of abducting, oppressing, and murdering. We have to abolish them.
Okay, I want to be really clear about this. The goal of the protests is to abolish ICE. The reason they want to abolish ICE is because the left believes ICE are the enforcers of capitalism. ICE are the enforcers of the border. The border wouldn't exist without capitalism because capitalism to the left is defined as private property ownership. This is why knowing the definitions of things is very, very important. Whether or not you agree with the left, it doesn't matter if you agree with them. This is how they define the words. When the left says capitalism, they mean private property ownership. What do you need to have private property ownership? You need to have borders, okay? You cannot have private property without having a border. Therefore, the left believes that in order to abolish capitalism, private property ownership, bro, did I just not tell you to shut the fuck up? Literally, I'm trying to explain something and you're still fucking whining. 5-minute timeout for you. Actually, I just permanently banned you. I didn't mean to actually permanently ban you. You know what? I'm going to bring you back. You're going to go in a 5-minute timeout. And you're going to shut the fuck up for 5 minutes. You're certainly not going to interrupt me when I'm trying to explain something deeply important to people. And if you come back, don't be a retard again in my chat. Literally just shut the fuck up and listen. So, where was I? The left defines capitalism as private property ownership. In order to have private property ownership, you need to have a border. ICE are the enforcers of the borders. Therefore, we cannot overthrow capitalism, according to the left, without abolishing ICE, because you can't abolish the borders without abolishing ICE. Does everyone understand this? The goal is not to get ICE out of Minnesota. The goal is not to get ICE out of Minneapolis. The goal is to abolish ICE entirely. It's not just about get them out of our cities and everything will go back to normal. It's never going back to normal. They want to abolish the institution. And by the way, they believe that ICE and the police are the same thing. They believe ICE and Border Patrol are the same thing. They believe ICE and DHS are the same thing. They believe ICE and the entire prison industrial complex are the same thing. They believe ICE and the military are the same thing. It's not just about ICE specifically. It's about abolishing any institution, whether that be the police, ICE, DHS, CPB, whatever. It's about abolishing every single institution that enforces the norms that uphold capitalist society. And that also, by the way, means the federal government. Does everyone understand what we're talking about here? One in the chat if you understand what I'm talking about. Two in the chat if you're confused. It's okay to be confused, but I need you to ask questions so I can help you understand what's going on. Like, if you're confused, what are you confused about? I promise I won't shame you if you're asking good questions. I only shame people who are being retarded. Okay, looks like there's a broad level of understanding. If you don't understand, it's totally fine. There are a lot of new people here. We welcome questions from new people. We want new people to feel comfortable asking questions. Just, you have to articulate to me what you're confused about so that I can explain it further. But just like ask in the chat and I will totally do it.
Rather than trying to reform institutions that exist for the sole purpose of abducting vanguardism. The other reason that the second strike was smaller was that the constellation of labor unions, immigrants' rights organizations, and religious institutions that bolstered the numbers for January 23rd.
No. This has nothing to do with the Democrats. And the Democrats are not calling to abolish ICE. The Democrats are not calling to abolish ICE at all in any way. In fact, the Democrat mayor of Minneapolis has said that he does not want to abolish ICE. Tim Walz has said he does not want to abolish ICE. This has nothing to do with the Democrats. And no, Antifa will never work with the Democrats and never have worked with the Democrats. If you believe that Antifa and the Democrats are the same, you need to stop listening to whatever retarded commentators you're listening to, because they're absolutely not the same at all in any way. How violent do you think they'll become to meet their goals? They want to violently overthrow the government, so I think pretty violent, honestly. I think it's going to get pretty bad. Stray Kitten, if you're still trying to understand, it's okay to ask questions like, what are you confused about? And it's okay. Like, if you don't know exactly how to word it, I've been doing this for a long time. I kind of know where people tend to get confused. If you can just try to articulate, like, I don't understand X, Y, B, and Z, that can really help me to be able to explain it.
And religious institutions that bolstered the numbers for January 23rd neither promoted nor mobilized their members for January 30th. Instead, the call for the January 30th strike seemed to
No, this is retarded. This is retarded. You need to stop saying the left is mad. They're doing this because they're mentally ill. No. We don't feed into this retarded bullshit narrative here. No, sorry. Bro, no one's looking to learn from you. I need no, don't stop. Just don't. No one's looking to. I am the teacher and you are the student. You are not here to teach me. I'm here to teach you. Yep, that is very true. People don't know how many groups there are on the far left. That is very true. Okay, so forget all that. Forget all that. These are terms that conservative media uses because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, okay? Forget all that. Forget color revolution. I don't even use that term here. That is a term that conservative media uses because they're trying to demonize China. China has nothing to do with this. Like, literally, pretty much, like, with the exception of a teeny tiny little slice of funding, which isn't even really that big of a deal. Like, China doesn't really have anything to do with this. So where you need to start is, Forget everything that your conservative con artist influencers have ever taught you. Forget all this terminology. Just listen to what they're saying. Because they don't use words like this. Only conservatives use words like this. Once you understand their language, you will understand them, but you have to stop listening to people who are lying and making shit up. That is honestly probably the biggest problem. How do you counter the whole trend of veteran far left activists that are making I don't know, Rich. I don't know, but that is I mean, I started reporting on that like 2 years ago. I mean, I have no idea, bro. I have no idea. No idea. No, they do not believe. Well, they have a different way that they make decisions. It's not mob rule. They say it's the only true form of democracy. They believe in direct democracy, which would inevitably lead to mob rule, but they don't. The left doesn't see it that way, is the thing. Overthrow of capitalism and the United States. Could you please give a quick synopsis of what Antifa sees as their ideal endgame? Violent overthrow of the United States government and abolition of the Constitution. Wait, is someone whining in the chat again? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Did I just ban the person that was whining? That was smart of me. Yep, I just banned the person that was whining. He got deported from the channel. I'm just going through the chat, guys, to make sure I got all the questions. Substack link is in the description below. Karlyn.substack.com. Looks like Reagan got it in there as well. Okay, let's continue.
Instead, the call for the January 30th strike seemed to originate from a coalition of student organizations at the University of Minnesota, including the Somali, Ethiopian, and Eritrean student associations, the Black Student Union, and a graduate student organization. To understand the political dynamics behind these two very different strikes and the decline in participation on...
Okay, so what Antifa is saying is the people who organized the January 23rd strike were completely different than the people who organized the January 30th strike. The January 30th strike seemed to be mostly organized by student organizations out of the University of Minnesota, which makes sense, actually.
To understand the political dynamics behind these two very different strikes and the decline in participation on January 30th, we have to address an albatross that has weighed down revolutionary movements for centuries: vanguardism. Vanguardism is defined as the strategy whereby an organization attempts to place itself at the center of a revolutionary movement and steer it in a direction consistent with it.
Hang on. Listen, I understand why you're asking this. They think life will be better and less oppressive, essentially. They think things will be better. I'm not going to go into an in-depth explanation of what they believe now because I've done it before many times. You can find me talking about it on video. You can find it on the Substack. You can find it on the YouTube channel. I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but like I promise you, if you sit back and actually just listen, you will learn this. But like you have to actually pay attention to the document being analyzed. And I'm saying this not just for you, but for everyone. When people ask questions that have nothing to do with the document being analyzed, it makes it really difficult. If you guys would like literally just sit and listen to the analysis of the document, you will start to learn their language and you will start to understand these things. But I have many videos talking about this, so you can go and find those if you feel like it.
The strategy whereby an organization attempts to place itself at the center of a revolutionary movement. Okay. Vanguardism is defined as the strategy whereby an organization attempts to place itself at the center of a revolutionary movement and steer it in a direction consistent with its ideology. The idea of a revolutionary vanguard party underpins practically every authoritarian socialist project since the 19th century.
Okay, what we're getting into here is something that people need to understand in general about Antifa. So, okay, we are reading Antifa right now. Not all far left groups are Antifa, okay? There are a lot of groups on the far left that are not Antifa. You can define Antifa by their use of aggressive, violent, destructive direct action, their use of black bloc, their use of certain types of weapons like umbrellas and bricks and leaf blowers now they're using. And like Antifa is pretty identifiable because they're anarcho-communists. They do not believe in hierarchy. Everything they do is decentralized. There are thousands of Antifa cells all over the country. We can identify these people based on their behaviors. And most Antifa groups are not called Antifa. So you can't just go based on what the groups are called. However, there are a lot of groups on the far left that do want to overthrow the government, but they are not Antifa. They're not engaging in black bloc. They're not engaging in violent, destructive action. They're doing more of like the non-violent stuff. They're doing a lot of the anti-ICE organizing, but they're not crossing the line into getting violent. There are different groups here that people need to understand. The idea of vanguardism is something that really pisses off Antifa because Antifa are anarchists. They do not believe in having any sort of formal hierarchy or formal structure. The idea of vanguardism is that there will be one driving party that pushes the communist overthrow of the government forward. It's like, you know how I've been explaining that there are like thousands and thousands of different groups, right? Some of those groups, like the Party for Socialism and Liberation, like the Revolutionary Communists of America, like the Firebrand Collective, like the Tempest Collective, like the what else am I missing? The Freedom Road Socialist Organization, like Socialist Alternative. These are what they call vanguard parties, okay? They are groups that are trying to be the leaders of the revolution. The DSA, you could even argue the DSA is probably they might argue that the DSA is trying to be a vanguard party because the DSA is trying to win through electoral means. These are organized, these are more organized, so when you look at things like the PSL or the RCA or any of these other groups, and don't worry, you don't have to remember all their names just now. I'm trying to articulate that there's a lot of different formalized groups on the far left. If you look at these formalized groups, they operate in a different way than Antifa operates because Antifa does not have a formal group structure because Antifa are anarchists. Antifa looks at the groups like the PSL, DSA, FRSO, Socialist Alternative, whatever the fuck, doesn't matter. They look at those groups and they're like, you guys are trying to be the vanguard that drives this revolution and literally fuck you. Like Antifa does not like the idea of there being an organized group that is going to push the revolution forward. This is what I mean when I talk about you can create infighting between the groups on the left. It's very difficult to create infighting within the groups on the left, but to create infighting between the groups is much more doable because you have all these little factional things where Antifa doesn't like that these groups are trying to be the vanguard of pushing communism in America. Okay, so what this section is about is Antifa saying there are all these groups that are trying to be the vanguard group that are going to be leading the revolution and literally fuck them because Antifa doesn't want to work with them. Does everyone understand what I just said? This is getting into the nitty-gritty of it. This is a much more wonky point, but if you really, really, really want to understand how the far left operates, this is something that people need to hear. 1 in the chat if you understand what I just said, 2 in the chat if you're confused. I want to make sure people understand this going into this section called vanguardism, because although I haven't read this document, I know exactly what this is going to say. Because it always says the same thing. Cool. All right, let's read this from the beginning.
The idea of vanguardism. The other reason that the second strike was smaller was that the constellation of labor unions, immigrants' rights organizations, and religious institutions that bolstered the numbers for January 23rd neither promoted nor mobilized their members for January 30th. Instead, the call for the January 30th strike seemed to originate from a coalition of student organizations at the University of Minnesota, including the Somali, Ethiopian, and Eritrean student associations, the Black Student Union, and a graduate student organization. To understand the political dynamics behind these two very different strikes and the decline in participation on January 30th, we have to address an albatross that has weighed down revolutionary movements for centuries: vanguardism. Vanguardism is defined as the strategy whereby an organization attempts to place itself at the center of a revolutionary movement and steer it in a direction consistent with its ideology. The idea of a revolutionary vanguard party underpins practically every authoritarian socialist project since the 19th century. In November 1917, Vladimir Lenin made a speech in which he set the blueprint for every state socialist party, asserting that a party is the vanguard class, and its duty is to lead the masses, and not merely to reflect the average political level of the masses. Organizations that model themselves in this image see themselves as the brain of the movement, and the rank and file participants as the body. They believe that their role is to guide an ignorant populace in a more advanced direction. The anarchist Alfredo Bonanno summarized a critique of this approach succinctly enough. This organization tends to cut itself off from and impose itself upon the revolutionary movement that produced it. But don't take Bonanno's word for it. For us, this is not an ideological issue, a question of political branding, but a strategic issue. The problem with vanguardism is that even when it works, it doesn't work.
Okay, so this is the Antifa perspective. This is not the perspective of other groups you're going to see on the far left. This is not the perspective of the Revolutionary Communists of America, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, the DSA, the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, Socialist Alternative. This is not their perspective, okay? This is Antifa's perspective. They say even when there is a group in charge of driving the revolution, it doesn't fucking work because it creates a hierarchy.
The problem with vanguardism is that even when it works, it doesn't work. Even when vanguardism consolidates control of a movement in the hands of the leadership of a single organization, it doesn't make the movement more vibrant and effective. Whether the organization in question uses its authority to impose a direction on the rest of the movement or to hold the movement back from action altogether, it can only inhibit the growth of a movement with a widely distributed sense of
Okay. Whether the organization in question uses its authority to impose a direction on the rest of the movement or to hold the movement back from action altogether, it can only inhibit the growth of a movement with a widely distributed sense of agency and initiative. Let me give you an example. Back in June, when they were doing, when the anti-ICE riots kind of initially started, one of the places where there were anti-ICE riots was in Austin, Texas. There were multiple groups protesting in Austin, Texas. The Party for Socialism and Liberation, the PSL, that was one of the groups. Antifa was also involved. Antifa released a document at the time saying, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, those stupid paid protesters, they wouldn't let us engage in violent, destructive action. Because the Party for Socialism and Liberation, for their many, many faults, they do not actually believe in violence. That when you see violence going on, it is not the PSL doing it, okay? Because the PSL is very, very, very sensitive to optics. The leadership of the PSL, which is a little bit of like a more Stalinist organization, it's one of the few rare kind of Stalinist organizations on the left. Mostly they're Marxist-Leninists. The PSL is hyper sensitive to optics. And so they actively prevent their members from engaging in violent direct action or destructive direct action. The PSL was at these protests with Antifa, and Antifa released a document afterwards basically saying, fuck the PSL, they're all paid protesters, we don't like them, they don't want us to engage in violent destructive action, they believe too much in optics, like literally fuck these people, they're basically fascists. Like that's what they're talking about here. When they say these vanguard organizations, they hold us back from doing what is required, they're talking about primarily in this case, probably the PSL. Because they're saying the PSL won't let us destroy shit and set fire to shit. Fuck them. Does everyone understand? The PSL is a problem, for sure, 100% sure, but the PSL is not Antifa, and Antifa hates the PSL.
It can only inhibit whether the organization in question uses its authority to impose a direction on the rest of the movement or to hold the movement back from action altogether. It can only inhibit the growth of a movement with a widely distributed sense of agency and initiative. What's more, organizations that understand themselves as the vanguard of the movement tend to compete with each other for control in ways that undermine the prospect of the movement as a whole. The general strike of January 30th is instructive because it offers examples of all three of these outcomes. By 2 p.m. on January 30th, it became clear to anyone who was paying attention that the student groups were not themselves in the driver's seat of the strike. A certain authoritarian socialist party was running the show. Their professionally printed picket.
What did I tell you? What did I fucking tell you? This document is about shitting on the PSL. I fucking promise you, this entire document is about shitting on the Party for Socialism and Liberation. When they say a certain authoritarian socialist party was running the show, they literally mean the Party for Socialism and Liberation. The signal groups are decentralized groups that encompass everyone. Like the signal groups are kind of a separate thing from what we're talking about right now. So again, this entire fucking document is Antifa complaining about the PSL again. Yep, I was right. If you guys want to reward me with a super chat every time I'm right, you can feel free to do so. Thanks, average person. I appreciate you. Yeah, well, it's actually very simple. No, just go Google anarcho-communist and then read about it. That's all. That's what you need to do. Are Antifa only the only violent ones? For the most part, yes. For the most part. But you got to understand, there is sometimes overlap between membership in Antifa and membership in some of these other groups. Antifa are absolutely the ones pushing violence. Antifa are the ones pushing for a rejection of nonviolence. Antifa are the ones that are constantly trying to instigate violence. They're the ones provoking the cops. So mostly if you're seeing violent, destructive behavior, that is an Antifa group of some sort. They're a narco-communist. They just want to burn down the system. That's all it is. I say pretty much because you look at a group like the Denver Communists. The Denver Communists are absolutely a revolutionary far-left group. The Denver Communists do accept on some level that they are going to have to overthrow the government. Bashback is going to be engaging in violent tactics too, but we're not going to talk about Bashback right now. It's going to be too confusing. Bashback does absolutely engage in violent stuff too. If you look at a group like the Denver Communists believe that they are eventually going to have to violently overthrow the government, but they are not necessarily inclined to engage in violence on a day-to-day basis. Okay. So it's like the Denver Communists aren't going to go out and start setting fire to shit. They aren't going to go out and start throwing bricks or anything. But they do acknowledge that eventually we're going to have to violently overthrow the government. So it's like, they're not doing it yet, but they acknowledge the necessity for it. The Denver Communists are not Antifa, although there may be some members of the Denver Communists who also do organize with Antifa. If that makes sense. Yo, Wolf, W for Wolf for the gifted channel membership. Really appreciate that, bro. Thanks so much. This is so funny. It's about the PSL. I knew it.
By 2 p.m. on January 30th, it became clear to anyone who was paying attention that the student groups were not themselves in the driver's seat of the strike. A certain authoritarian socialist party was running the show. Their professionally printed picket signs displayed their phone number. Their yellow-vested marshals policed the crowd and directed people along a predetermined route. Their chant leaders stood with a PA system on the back of a 26-foot flatbed truck that led the march.
Yo.
We marched in a big circle, starting in...
Hey, thanks for being a member of the channel for 3 months. Have a good evening, y'all. Just got on break. Well, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
We marched in a big circle, starting and ending at the same location, Government Plaza, giving participants no opportunity to engage state forces or gum up IC infrastructure. Like practically every event that this group has ever called, the march was as much an advertisement for the party as a tactic intended to exert pressure on the ruling class and empower the oppressed.
See, this is their perception of the mass general strike. And by the way, for people who don't know, the mass general strike on Friday, one of the key organizing groups was the Party for Socialism and Liberation. We saw PSL hats, we saw PSL signs. Like it was like the PSL was a very, very prominent group in that general strike on Friday. Listen to this. This is Antifa's perception of that. We marched in a big circle, starting and ending at the same location, Government Plaza, giving participants no opportunity to engage state forces or gum up ICE infrastructure. So basically what they're saying is the stupid PSL organized this stupid march where we basically walked in a circle. We didn't actually confront law enforcement. We didn't violently confront ICE. We didn't stop any deportations. Antifa's complaining about this very kind of controlled protest in which they weren't allowed to engage in any violent, destructive action. Like practically every other event this group has ever called, the march was as much an advertisement for the party as a tactic intended to exert pressure on the ruling class and empower the oppressed. So they're saying this was a stupid fucking waste of our time. Thanks, PSL. You guys suck.
We marched in a big circle, starting and ending at the same location, Government Plaza, giving participants no opportunity to engage state forces or gum up ICE infrastructure, like practically every event that this group has ever called. The march was as much an...
No, and again, I have to explicitly explain this because there are a lot of retarded conservatives, Mike Benz, that are running around and Data Republican, that are running around the internet talking about the CIA says we can create infighting in these groups. I'm sorry, Mike Benz doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Data Republican is a paid narrative shill that doesn't know shit. But those two motherfuckers have gone on all these shows and done all these fucking streams talking about this CIA tactic says that we can create infighting within the groups. No, you can't. No, you can't. But, and this is what I have been very careful to explain several times, Melissa, so I need you to ask questions if you're confused, okay? You can create infighting between the groups because the groups already don't like each other. Antifa does not like the PSL. However, is this ever going to lead to Antifa eating itself? No, not in any way. That would be creating infighting within the groups. Mike Benz and Data Republican don't know what the fuck they're talking about. That's not going to happen. The PSL is not going to eat itself. The party, the socialist alternative is not going to eat itself. Freedom Road Socialist Organization is not going to eat itself. And even if you create infighting among the groups, that does not mean the far left is going to eat itself. All of that is made up bullshit, again, by Mike Benz and Data Republican, both of whom don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So, no, you cannot get the left to eat itself. All you can do is slow it down. That's it. We can slow it down by, I guess, encouraging the fighting that's already going on between the groups, but the fighting between the groups has always been going on. It's not anything new. Well, I'm telling you who put that, there's a reason you know that talking point, Melissa, and that's because you listen to retarded conservative media, and I'm telling you, they got that talking points from Mike Benz or Data Republican, neither of whom know what the fuck they're talking about. I'm telling you where this talking point comes from. All right, let's continue.
Like practically every event that this group has ever called, the march was as much an advertisement for the party as a tactic intended to exert pressure on the ruling class and empower the oppressed. Presumably, this particular party, fairly large by the standards of Marxist-Leninist sects in the United States,
PSL.
but without much of a foothold in the Twin Cities, had funneled its plans through student groups at the university. It used them as proxies to call
That's
for
true.
strike at a moment when the iron was hot and the people of Minnesota were clamoring to fight ICE.
Okay, so what Antifa is saying is the PSL basically organized the student groups at the University of Minnesota to do this mass general strike on Friday, but it wasn't the idea of the student groups, it was the idea of the PSL. That is actually probably true because the PSL did the same thing with the pro-Palestine college encampments that were started by Columbia. The PSL was intimately involved with organizing at Columbia. They organized at Harvard. They organized with schools all over Boston. They organized schools all over the country. The PSL was intimately involved with the college encampment protests that happened in 2024 and 2025, where they did exactly the same thing that Antifa is saying here. They went on to college campuses. They organized the student groups on campuses in order to get them to, like, you know, do what they wanted them to do. So Antifa is actually probably correct in this regard.
It used them as proxies to call for strike at a moment when the iron was hot and the people of Minnesota were clamoring to fight ICE. As vanguard parties frequently do, it led from the rear. But all was not well in the wider ecosystem of left organizations. Another Marxist party, with a smaller footprint on the national stage, but a much more established presence in Minneapolis, refused to participate in the January 30th strike. Through one of its most active front organizations, the Minnesota Immigrant Rights Action Committee, this competing party conspicuously declined to endorse the general strike, explaining this decision thus: "This is not a Merrick action. We support the workers' struggle and follow the lead of unions for strikes and strike-related activities. We have not seen the vast majority of unions sign on to this. Merrick will always put our logo on our events. We do not endorse actions with no organizational logos because we can't ensure it's sick for participants. Because this proposal for a mass strike came from outside their turf, they could only view it with territorialism and suspicion. While their competitors led from the rear, this organization sought to stand aside completely, as if they could be neutral on a moving train. These organizing failures are not merely incidental. They are familiar patterns that have been associated with a vanguardist approach to movement building for generations. The zero-sum approach to politics, the jealous factionalism, the turf war attitude, the reliance on front groups, the deprioritizing of tactics that actually confront the authorities, and the opportunistic drive to seize a leadership role over and above any other strategic consideration are all recognizable signs of vanguardism. The resistance to IC in the Twin Cities became powerful because, rather than starting from top-down leadership models, it began at the grassroots with models that anyone could employ, models that maximize the agency and autonomy of everyone who wanted to participate. The rapid response networks proliferated because they were empowering, because they made everyone a protagonist, not because they were controlled by infallible leadership.
Okay.
If anything,
the PSL national organization does have funding from that Neville asshole that is the only, this Neville Borysenko guy, who is like the only person that conservatives have ever heard of. He does give money to the PSL national organization. That probably isn't their only source of funding, but it is one of the sources of funding. This is a very rare exception to far left organizing groups. The vast majority of far left activism is funded via mutual aid. Mutual aid is like passing the collection plate at church. It's like you guys giving me super chats. That's what that is. That is how the vast majority of leftist groups are funded. That is how Antifa is funded. It is funded entirely by mutual aid. The reason that Antifa are calling the PSL the paid protesters are because they do have a funding tie to that Neville Borysenko asshole that is, like, again, the only person that conservatives have ever heard about, because a big deal is made about him because conservatives hate China, because Israel wants them to hate China. And so they use this tactic to get people to hate China because they're fucking retarded or whatever. Like the real socialists and communists don't think China is communist, by the way. They think it's capitalist, and they're not actually wrong about that. But there is that funding tie. That goes to the national PSL organization. There are many local chapters of the PSL. That money, the best of my knowledge, that money that goes to the national organization does not trickle down into the local parties. The local parties are required to do their own fundraising, and that fundraising comes from small cash donations, just like every other group. So the reason that Antifa calls the PSL the paid protesters is because they technically are like funded by the it's not that everyone you see. I want to be very, very clear, because conservatives like to take one thing I say and twist it to mean something it doesn't mean. It does not mean the people you see in the streets are paid protesters. The people you see in the streets are not paid protesters. They are not being paid to go out and protest. That's not real. That is a conservative bullshit myth. The reason that Antifa calls the PSL paid protesters are because the national organization does have funding that they use for like office space, and they use for travel budget, and they use for things like that. But that money is not going down to paying protesters to go out in the cold and protest. Does everyone understand? One in the chat if you understand what I'm saying. Two in the chat. No. This is why I'm being very, very specific. Melissa, open your ears. Open your ears. The signs are printed on their home printers. The signs are these are not Soros-funded signs, Melissa. That's a Trump bullshit myth. That's not real. Do you know how we know that? They released a video showing how they print the signs on their home printers. They literally released a video showing that they print the signs on their home printers. These people have jobs. They have printers, just like any of you. If they want to make a sign, they literally print it on their home printer. These are not Soros-funded signs. This is Melissa, this is called basic marketing that anyone can do with a computer, okay? So, this is why I have to be very, very specific and careful when I speak on this issue, because conservatives grasp it, they go, so they are protesters, they're all paid, this is fake, they're all paid protesters, and that's not fucking true. It's not true. But certainly the PSL has access to money that Antifa does not have access to at all. You think it costs $10 to print a sign, bro? It does not cost $10 to print a sign. It costs a couple cents. Seriously, do any of you have home fucking printers? Conservatives, do any of you have printers in your house? One in the chat if you have a printer in your house. One in the chat if you have a printer in your house. Two in the chat if you do not have a printer in your house. Like, it is mind-boggling to me. Conservatives have no fucking idea how printers work. It must cost them $10. No. Does it cost you $10 to print a thing off your printer? Yeah, some printers even have scanners. Some printers even have copiers. Printers are magical devices that you can buy for a couple $100 at Staples. Oh my God. Oh my God. That does not mean they are paying protesters. Every fucking stream I have to have this conversation. Literally everyone. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, that must be it. Guys, printer ink is really expensive. They must all be funded by George Soros. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Time out to you. Far too retarded to be here. Far too. You ever come back and say something that fucking retarded again? Guys, printer ink is just too expensive for Antifa to buy. Like, are you fucking serious? Yes, they send out templates for the signs that you can then print off at home. Alex, thank you for being a member of the channel for 24 months. I really do appreciate you. Yo, libraries charge 25 cents per color page, and big libraries have large format printers. Anyone with an office job has access to commercial printers for free. That is a really great point, Alex. What about the people who literally just go into work and use their work's printer to print a bunch of shit out? Is that funded by Soros? Is that those Soros-funded workplace printers? Okay. Okay. Hey guys, have you ever gotten a banner printed? It costs less than $100. You get it through Vistaprint. Has anyone ever gotten Vistaprint to print a banner? I have. It costs less than $100. It can be done in like it can be done really rush if you need it to be, but if you've got some time, it's really not that expensive, guys. Conservatives be like, it is impossible to get a banner printed. Like, are you fucking stupid? My God. Oh my God. Oh no. Oh no. You just got permanently banned from my chat. Oh no. Bye. Permanent ban. Go away. One moment. One moment. Hang on one second. Guys, hang on. Not now. Hey guys. Do you know how much it costs to rent a U-Haul truck? Have you ever looked up the price of a U-Haul truck? Do you know how I know how much it costs to rent a U-Haul truck? It's written on the side of the fucking truck, asshole. He must have thought that U-Haul truck was $20. Timeout for being too retarded to be here. Does anyone else want to get a timeout? They showed up in a U-Haul. It must be funded. It must be funded by China. The only way to get a U-Haul is to be funded by China. It's written on the fucking truck, guys. It's $20 to rent the U-Haul truck. It's $20 fucking dollars. It's $20 fucking dollars. Like, I cannot even. This is what I'm talking about when I say you guys have literally no clue the amount of absolute retardation that I have to deal with on like a daily basis for the fascist spaz deportation fund. Yeah, can you guys all please donate me money to protect my sanity? I need to go I need to go to the dispensary tomorrow. Like, I need to go to the dispensary tomorrow and buy a whole lot more weed than I currently have in my office, because this is why I smoke weed all the time. You guys understand this, right? The amount of conservative retardation that I have to deal with on a daily fucking basis has driven me to constant drug use. Thank you, conservatives. Has anyone ever heard of Kinkos, for fuck's sake? Apparently not. Conservatives have no idea what fucking Kinkos is. Yeah, U-Haul must be an anagram for Soros. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate you. Does everyone understand? Okay, we're going back to our document now. We're going back to smart people work now. No more retarded shit in my chat. If anyone else says anything retarded in my chat, you're going to get put in a 5-minute timeout. If you continue to be a retard after you come back from the 5-minute timeout, we're going to permanently ban you from the chat. I can't deal with this shit. You guys all drove me to constant drug use. It's true. I'm not even joking. I honestly love the stupid people because I love the angry rants. Yeah, well, you guys are giving me gray hairs and I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate it. I am, of course, 29. For the Soros-funded purse fund to fund Karlyn's addiction, thank you. The purses are the only thing that make me happy. That's it. My purse collection is the only thing I have anymore.
If anything, the resistance to IC in the Twin Cities became powerful because rather than starting from top-down leadership models, it began at the grassroots with models that anyone could employ, models that maximize the agency and autonomy of everyone who wanted to participate. The rapid response network.
Hang on. Literally go fuck yourself. But I am not getting the Gucci purses from China. The Gucci purses are real. I will get purses from China when we're talking like an Hermes purse or something like that, or we're talking like a Chanel purse, because I'm not paying $10,000 for a fucking purse. That's retarded. You can get exactly the same fucking purse from China, literally handmade using exactly the same materials for far less than $10,000. And that is what you go to China for. The Gucci's are real, motherfucker. The Gucci's are not made in China. You can't even get those purses from China. You can't even get the limited edition Gucci. Have you ever looked on the Chinese knockoff websites? Because I have. You can't even get those fucking purses from China. Them's fighting words. Literally go fuck yourself. When I say it's a Gucci, that means it's the real fucking thing. Show some respect. Mercado's streaming some sort of jazz band thing going on right now. We're not going to listen to that.
The rapid response networks proliferated because they were empowering, because they made everyone a protagonist, not because they were controlled by infallible leadership. If anything, the Twin Cities rapid response model removed bottlenecks and centralization from the model developed just a couple months earlier in Chicago, which had already been horizontal and participatory, because the movement in the Twin Cities grew up in a process of organic experimentation, offering space for everyone's ingenuity and initiative in recognizing strength and diversity rather than in control of a pre-existing leadership. It has been able to grow bigger, stronger, and smarter than any single party ever could. People try out tactics and strategies and stick with the ones that work, not the ones that benefit a leadership cadre. We should not conflate building the membership of top-down organizations with building the power of a movement. For example, many unions officially refuse to participate in both the January 23rd and January 30th strikes,
smoke in my eye.
but rank-and-file membership participated in both nonetheless. Rank-and-file readiness to strike is almost always ahead of the leadership in unions and parties alike. As long as our movements depend upon vanguardist organizations and their petty power struggles, we will remain at their mercy and consequently at the mercy of the ruling class. We need a movement that cannot be held back or hijacked by any leadership, a movement that compels every aspiring vanguard to hurry after it, setting aside their squabbles and petty ambitions. That was what made the general strike of January 23rd so powerful. So the problem with the January 30th strike was not that it brought out fewer people than the January 23rd strike, per se. Many of the experiments that participants in the movement in the Twin Cities have undertaken have brought out far fewer people while pointing to an open horizon and demonstrating possibilities that others could take up and improve upon. But simply attempting to repeat the movement's previous victories for the sake of recruitment, without opening space for innovation and confrontation, can only run it into the ground. The important question is whether an organization...
They do. This is true. I think Gucci handbags look better than the LV. I fucking cannot stand LV anymore. And I have several LV purses, like real ones. And I cannot stand LV anymore. I'm so sick of the fucking monogram. I'm so sick of it. And I don't really like the Gucci like monogram all that much either. Like the Gucci Supreme fabric. Like it's not my favorite, but like the Gucci limited edition purses are so much better than LV. They're beautiful. They're fucking awesome. Yo, thanks, James, for the really generous super chat. I very much appreciate it. For the Karlyn Dealing with Stupid People Fund, no matter how many times you have to explain the same thing over and over again, your work is appreciated. Thank you. I have learned so much, but no, there's still so much more to learn. I really appreciate you, James. Thanks so much for the super chat. Very generous. You rule. Thank you.
The important question is whether an organizational model is reproducible, serving to empower whoever makes use of it to resist oppression, or extractive, serving to concentrate power in the hands of leaders. The leaderless character of the resistance to ICE in Minnesota is precisely what has made it effective.
The leaderless character of the resistance to ICE in Minnesota is precisely what has made it effective. Again, guys, this is not Antifa trying to trick anyone. This is Antifa talking to other Antifa all over the country, okay? They are saying the fact that there is a leaderless resistance in Minnesota is what has made it so effective. There is no leader. There is no head of the snake. They are telling you that. It is a non-hierarchical, decentralized movement. And the reason they're shitting so much on the Party for Socialism and Liberation is they believe the Party for Socialism, I'm sorry, no. You get one more retard post, bro. One more retard post, you're permanently banned from the channel. The reason they're posting so much about the Party for Socialism and Liberation is because they believe the PSL is trying to step in and be the leader of the resistance, and they believe that would ruin the whole thing entirely because the leaderless character of the resistance to ICE in Minnesota is precisely what has made it effective. They're telling you there's no leader. Okay? Thank you, Donald HX, over on Rumble for the $5. I really do appreciate that. A narco means no ruler. Exactly.
The leaderless character of the resistance to ICE in Minnesota is precisely what has made it effective. The decentralized nature of the rapid response groups has made them durable and agile. The initiative of autonomous fighters in the neighborhoods has enabled people to rise and revolt every time they have shot or murdered our neighbors.
Well, this is a great question. How can the government handle a decentralized group like that? The first step is to acknowledge that it is a decentralized group. The Trump administration still believes that Soros is the head of the snake and that they can cut off the head of the snake with RICO charges and it's all going to be over. That's not real. That is a made-up fantasy, okay? The first step towards defeating a decentralized model is acknowledging that it is a decentralized model, is actually like hinging into reality and saying, okay, maybe that's Soros stuff, maybe that wasn't true, and maybe in order to actually solve this problem, we need to understand this problem, and we need to acknowledge this is a decentralized, non-hierarchical organization. If Trump can't acknowledge that this is a decentralized, non-hierarchical organization, there is nothing that he can do to defeat them because he is not hinged into reality. So that would be a good first step. The DSA is not Antifa. The DSA is completely different than Antifa, and that's not entirely true either, by the way, what you're saying. We are not talking about the DSA, we are talking about Antifa.
The horizontality of our mutual aid networks makes them opaque to the feds while enabling them to feed, clothe, and care for vulnerable families.
The horizontality, that means non-hierarchical, the horizontality of our mutual aid networks, they're funded by mutual aid, makes them opaque to the feds while enabling them to feed, clothe, and care for vulnerable families. Antifa is telling you that the feds don't know shit about their funding structure. Does everyone understand? Antifa is publishing on their main publishing website. Guys, the feds have no fucking idea how to deal with our mutual aid network. And so our mutual aid network can just keep working because the feds have no fucking clue what's going on. They're putting this in writing, guys.
The horizontality of our mutual aid networks makes them opaque to the feds while enabling them to feed, clothe, and care for vulnerable families. No official organization would ever dare to call for the countless acts of bravery by which individuals have collectively propelled this movement forward. The everyday anarchism of the Minneapolis Revolution is its greatest strength. To the extent that we allow top-down forces to take control of the movement, we will compromise its structural integrity and set ourselves up to lose.
I'm telling you what it is. It is mutual aid. They are funded by mutual aid. Mutual aid is passing the collection plate at church. It's sending super chats. It's small cash donations. That's what it is. I'm sorry, did I miss a super chat? Who did I miss a super chat from? Lex, did I miss a super chat? I'm sorry if I missed a super chat, bro. Let me see. Lex, I'm not seeing any super chat from you, bro. Did it go? Oh, wait, here it is. Sorry. I did miss this. I apologize. When you interviewed Chandler, you asked him if he'd take Soros money if it was offered, and he said yes. Chandler's not in Antifa. Chandler has never been in Antifa. Chandler is like an odd duck for sure, but Chandler's kind of like, Chandler's a communist, but he's not really he's not involved in any of these groups. He's certainly not Antifa. So do I think that he was just blowing smoke? No, I think that in Chandler's mind, Chandler's like, yeah, money would be fucking great. But Chandler's not, Chandler's like an odd duck in this whole thing. He's not actually as powerful as you guys think he is. He's not some great Antifa leader. That's just kind of a joke. Yeah. Thank you for the super chat. I'm sorry I missed it earlier.
To the extent that we allow top-down forces to take control of the movement, we will compromise its structural integrity and set ourselves up to lose. With so much on the line, we can't afford to...
Okay, listen, guys, if you don't understand what mutual aid is, I don't know what to tell you. Mutual aid is small cash donations that cannot be traced. Mutual aid is passing the collection plate at church. Mutual aid is super chats that people send to me. Mutual aid is someone, okay, bro, I'm very sorry. Permanent ban from my chat. Go away. Mutual aid is someone holding out a bucket and people throwing in $5 or $10. That's what mutual aid is, guys. It's small cash. We have covered mutual aid extensively on the channel. You can search mutual aid on the channel. You will find presentations about mutual aid on the channel. We will cover mutual aid more like at a later date, just not right this second. But like, it's literally just someone holds out a bucket and people put in cash, or they donate supplies like water supplies or Plan B or condoms or whatever, the clothes. They do a lot of clothes stuff with clothes. Like, it's the fucking Salvation Army, guys. It's the Salvation Army. People donate shit. People who need it then come and take it, or they throw cash in a bucket. Does everyone understand? This is how Antifa is funded. People do donate gas masks. Yep, gas masks are $20 on Amazon. People absolutely donate gas masks, 100%. It's a fucking thrift store. Yeah, it's a thrift store. Does everyone get it? Mutual aid, small donations. Super chats are mutual aid. Yep, a lot of churches do mutual aid. Yep, people can donate printer ink cartridges. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. And that is why, guys, there will never be any RICO charges. That's why. Have there been RICO charges? I'm sorry, Trump has been blustering for months. RICO, 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 RICO. Where are the fucking RICO charges? You want to know why there will never be RICO charges? Because Trump doesn't even know how they're fucking funded. You can't have RICO charges on small cash donations that are not traceable.
With so much on the line, we can't afford to let that happen. We don't need everyone who participates in the movement to agree. Some will buy into the false promises of Democratic politicians, at least until the next betrayal. Some will prefer to look to the leadership of authoritarian cadre organizations. But if a critical mass of people understand that no one is coming to save us, that it really is up to us to win this fight and take it upon ourselves to stand up to ICE, doing whatever it takes regardless of what any politician or party prescribes, our movement will remain dynamic enough to go on growing. And in the end, we will win. Further reading. The noise demonstrations keeping ICE...
Okay, that is the end of that article. So this article is, again, it's on CrimeThink, which is Antifa's main publishing arm. This is about appeasement vanguardism and the general strike. This is basically an article shitting on the PSL and saying we need a non-hierarchical movement. That is what this is about. Okay, I've answered many questions throughout the reading of this article. Does anyone have any other questions about it? Do you guys have other questions? Let me just check in. Marcato's still watching some sort of jazz band thing. Let me see if anyone else is live streaming right now. Oh, BG on the scene is also at the jazz band thing. We're sure as shit not watching that. I'll tell you that right now. We are not watching this fucking jazz band festival that these two are at. Okay. Why don't we do one more? Why don't we do one more? Why don't we talk about, well, let's see. Do you guys want to talk about crossing the line? Is it really safer at the front? Or do you guys want to do, they are tear gassing children? One in the chat. Oh, you guys can't see what I'm looking at. One in the chat, if you want to read crossing the line, is it really safer at the front? Two in the chat if you want to read they're tear gassing children. We can do one more. One for, is it really safer at the front? Two for tear gassing children. Shit, looks pretty even. I think the twos have it. Okay, we're going to do the tear gassing children one. Okay, we're going to do this one. This was actually just posted by Antifa today. So it's brand new. They are tear gassing children, the federal assault on the Ice Out labor march in Portland. Let's read.
They are tear gassing children. The federal assault on the IC Out labor march in Portland. On January 31st, demonstrators in Portland marched to the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Field Office in Portland. In response, without provocation, ICE agents attacked them with a variety of dangerous weapons, blanketing the area in tear gas and injuring a number of small children. Rather than intimidating the people of Portland, this brazen assault has only galvanized them against ICE. In the following account, participants in the demonstration recount the events as they unfolded. I feel sure that the police are helping us more than I could do in 10 years. They are making more anarchists than the most prominent people connected with the anarchist cause could make in 10 years. If they will only continue, I shall be very grateful. They will save me lots of work. Emma Goldman. On January 31st, a day after national shutdown in protest against the brutality that Immigration and Customs Enforcement is perpetrating around the country, a 5,000-strong rally and march got underway in Elizabeth Carruthers Park in Portland, Oregon. The theme was Labor Says IC Out. Laborers marching towards the IC facility in Portland with their union display a banner reading Labor Says IC Out. Unlike previous mass protests, which avoided direct contact with the Department of Homeland Security, the stated goal was to march on the infamous IC Enforcement and Removal Operations Field Office. The field office has become a daily target of protests ranging from 5 to 200 people since the uptick in DHS aggression last summer. Many local radicals saw more potential in this march than the usual demonstrations. It was planned well in advance.
So I want to be clear about this. So yeah, this was happening at the same time as that bike ride memorial. That's true. But in Portland, they have been doing weekly rallies every single Saturday in that park for months and months and months and months and months. So this is just like a regular thing. This is like the course of doing business. These people wake up on Saturday, they go do a rally in the park, they go march to the ICE facility, they go protest the ICE facility. The park is like 3 blocks away from the ICE facility. I've been to a rally in the park. I've walked that whole thing. It's very, very close. And so that is what this is just like a regular thing they're doing in Portland. This one had more attendance at it because there had been more action lately, of course. So this was a bigger rally than average.
It was planned well in advance, with an intentional focus on class, capitalism, and logistics, and organizers made an effort to reach out to various unions and other organizations. Consequently, an unspoken consensus emerged that, after the march and rally concluded, there would be an earnest attempt to shut down the IC facility. This understanding was in part inspired by the shift in dynamics within the crowd that had gathered at the field office after the murder of Alex Preddy on January 24th. An anti-IC protester held up a sign depicting a line of federal police reading jackboot thugs and fascist IC. However, the DHS forces at the field office did not wait to deploy their weaponry. As the march made its way to the IC building on South Macadam Avenue, Federal Protective Services agents and Customs and Border Protection agents showed themselves. Some people in the march jeered at them. The mercenaries responded to their words and gestures by attacking the crowd with an array of less lethal weapons, blanketing the area with tear gas and firing on the crowd at random with pepper balls and flashbang grenades. This march involved more children than the average demonstration in Portland, including some very small children. The federal agents did not spare the children, but attacked them with the same viciousness with which they attacked adults.
Well, one might argue that perhaps parents shouldn't be bringing children to the protest in the first place. One might say this is the fault of parents, but the whole reason that they are protesting the ICE facility in Portland, and I need people to understand this, listen to what I'm about to say. What they're trying to do is get the city to revoke the lease that ICE has on that facility. The argument they are making is ICE is literally putting the residents of that area in danger. This is the argument they're making to the Portland City Council. They're saying ICE is using this tear gas. They're doing it on children. They're putting everyone in the community in danger. They're making that argument to the city council to try to get them to revoke the lease that ICE have on the facility to get ICE out of that facility. So do they care that parents shouldn't bring their kids to the protest? No, because they are using the children as a weapon to be able to say, ICE is literally putting these kids in danger, to go to the city council to argue that they should revoke the lease. Does everyone understand what the end game is here? Thanks so much for the super chat. There would be no risk of accidentally hitting kids with OC spray if they simply made water cannons great again. I totally agree. We need to make water cannons great again. That has got to be, Trump really should be on top of that, but sadly, Trump is a massive pussy.
The federal agents did not spare the children, but attacked them with the same viciousness with which they attacked adults. Gruesome images circulated afterwards, showing children struggling with the effects of tear gas. Shortly after the march arrived, federal agents emerged without warning, immediately and indiscriminately attacking demonstrators with tear gas and other munitions. It's important to point out that many of these kids are not simply passive victims. They, too, have been resisting the regime. Many of them had walked out of class on January 30th and participated in marches that were as radical as the labor march of January 31st. For example, self-organized students at McDaniel High School walked out that day and marched down a major arterial road. The speeches at the closing of that march were at least as fiery as those of the labor march, according to young people who attended both rallies. At the closing rally of the McDaniel walkout, an elder Portland Black Panther joined students who spoke out as immigrants or the children of immigrants on the gravity of our current situation and the need for action. Some of those students attended the labor march, many of them prepared with personal protective equipment, knowing that officers could attack the march regardless of whether the participants were peaceful. The brutality of the federal agents comes as no great surprise to those who understand state violence as a means of imposing social control rather than responding to actual threats, but it is infuriating nonetheless. Forced away from the facility, the crowd began to make their way back to the park, shouting at the feds between gasps for air. There were so many people that it was difficult for many to escape the noxious clouds, which extended for over 6 blocks. A cloud of tear gas above the IC facility in Portland, lit up an orange hue by an exploding flash.
It was an epic amount of tear gas that day. I don't know if you guys were watching live coverage with me that day, but they did. The ICE people did actually unleash like an absurd amount of tear gas, and I thought it was great. I wanted more tear gas myself, but, you know, we get what we get.
Once most of the marchers were back in the park, the closing rally began. After a lot of eye flushes, a few speeches, and a rendition of Bella Ciao, the labor event was formally concluded. Someone announced that those who were willing and able should head back to the field office to show the feds how we felt about their actions. Considering how many people have witnessed footage of 2 public executions by ICE over the past month, the repressive violence that they perpetrated in Portland on January 31st should be less shocking now. Nonetheless, experiencing it firsthand made it concrete for many participants in the demonstration. Federal agents are our enemies. As Greek anarchists said in 2008, sometimes tear gas helps you to see more clearly. As the sun set, hundreds of angry people gathered in front of the field office. Soon, the sound of rhythmic banging cut to the chants and shouts. The crowd turned to see masked individuals banging on a dumpster as they wheeled it toward the driveway of the facility. The driveway is the major bottleneck for getting vehicles and thus officers and prisoners in and out of the facility. Cheers erupted as demonstrators thrust the dumpster against the gate. People stood fearlessly in thick clouds of tear gas after federal agents came out to deliver a second barrage of chemical warfare. A line of agents opened the gate to secure the dumpster. While this was happening, some people
Hang on,
began
we
to
should probably,
dismantle the plywood
we should
protection.
probably watch this here video. Watch this. People stood fearlessly in thick crowds of tear gas. I think that was pretty awesome. Good amount of tear gas. Excellent work.
A line of agents opened the gate to secure the dumpster. While this was happening, some people began to dismantle the plywood protection on one side of the facility. After the feds regrouped, they sent out another team to tackle people in the crowd. Though a couple people met their charge of projectiles, and others responded by pulling people free of the feds' grasp, the mercenaries fired another round of tear gas, pepper balls, and flashbang grenades, clearing the crowd enough to make some arrests. Despite their violence, people are not intimidated. The tone has started to change here in Portland. We've been seeing the return of tactics that were widespread in 2020. Some people show up wearing gloves, prepare to throw the tear gas canisters back at the mercenaries who deploy them. Others are coming in behind them with leaf blowers, trying to blow the smoke back at the feds.
I literally just posted a video about that on my Twitter earlier today. Hang on. Yeah, let me show you guys. I posted this either last night or this morning. I forget. Where the fuck is the leaf blower? This is the dumpster that got that is them attacking ICE with a dumpster in Portland. Oh, here it is. Here's the leaf blower. So I want to point this out. I want to show you guys these videos because one of the ways that really the only way that you can identify Antifa, the only way you can identify in who is in Antifa is not based on any group name, because most Antifa groups are not named Antifa. The way that you can identify who is an Antifa is through their behaviors, okay? It's dressing in black bloc, following surveillance culture, using umbrellas as weapons, using leaf blowers as weapons, picking up the tear gas canisters and throwing it back at ICE. How do we know that? Because they write about it. They're saying our people are dressing in black bloc, throwing the tear gas canisters back at ICE, using the leaf blowers. I want you guys to see, like, the stuff that's happening in the real world. Their behaviors and their tactics are how you identify who is in Antifa and who is not in Antifa. It's not about, are you a member of X, Y, B, and Z group? Because you can't name every single Antifa group. They literally could be called anything. You identify Antifa because they show up in black bloc, they engage in security culture, they use leaf blowers and umbrellas, and they throw projectiles, and they aren't afraid to destroy things and set things on fire, and they bring leaf blowers to deal with the tear gas and stuff like that. You identify them through their behaviors and their tactics.
Despite their violence, people are not intimidated. The tone has started to change here in Portland. We've been seeing the return of tactics that were widespread in 2020. Some people show up wearing gloves, prepare to throw the tear gas canisters back at the mercenaries who deploy them. Others are coming in behind them with leaf blowers, trying to blow the smoke back at the feds, or using traffic cones to put the gas canisters out. A federal agent standing on the roof of an IC facility in Portland aimed.
Hang on, we got a super chat here from Cool Breeze. Thank you. You are so important. In my 40s, been studying these groups, sociology and psychology for decades. All the ones I met are godless and angry. Well, I completely disagree with that analysis, but okay. To destroy is better than looking in the mirror to them. Yeah, I I disagree with that last part, but you know what? I'm gonna agree with the first part that I am incredibly important, and I'm just gonna pretend you didn't write the rest of that super chat and just stick with you are so important. Thanks so much for the super chat, Cool Breeze. I appreciate it.
A federal elsewhere that evening, a far-right streamer had a bad experience. This person and his henchmen have been harassing anti-IC protesters for months.
I wonder who Tommy.
Sometimes benefiting from
Tommy. They're talking about Tommy. This is about Tommy getting the shit kicked out of him. Holy shit. Antifa wrote about Tommy getting the shit kicked out of him. Wow. Okay, let's read.
Elsewhere that evening, a far-right streamer had a bad experience. This person and his henchmen have been harassing anti-IC protesters for months, sometimes benefiting from protection offered by protest marshals. Instead of getting into pointless shouting matches with him, some anti-fascists apparently chose to confront him when he wasn't expecting it. There are certainly cases in which far-right pundits have built careers out of claiming to have been victimized, but in this case, this action seems to have diminished the capacity of the far-right to support the feds.
So they're saying in the language that Antifa uses, and I hope you guys are getting a semblance now of the language that Antifa uses. They chose to confront him, and their actions diminish the ability of far-right pundits to support the feds. When in fact what happened is they jumped Tommy from behind, hit him in the head with a rock, gave him a black eye, broke his glasses, kicked the shit out of him, punched him multiple times in the face, and then ran away. Do you guys understand? This is the confession of we beat the shit out of Tommy because he was annoying us. That's crazy that they're talking about Tommy in this. Tommy W, honestly, like to get an Antifa mention, Tommy W. Robin, thanks so much for the super chat. I've learned so much from your videos. I've been trying to get more of my friends and family to watch your videos to learn and understand what's going on. I appreciate that very much, Robin. Thank you so much for the money. Let's listen to this paragraph again.
There's elsewhere that evening, a far-right streamer had a bad experience. This person and his henchmen have been harassing anti-IC protesters for months, sometimes benefiting from protection offered by protest marshals. Instead of getting into pointless shouting matches with him, some anti-fascists apparently chose to confront him when he wasn't expecting it. There are certainly cases in which far-right pundits have built careers out of claiming to have been victimized, but in this case, this action seems to have diminished the capacity of the far-right to support the feds. The right-wing streamer sent out a call to attack an anti-IC event on the following day, February 1, but despite all their bluster, they didn't show up. That night,
So Antifa is now taking a W after kicking the shit out of Tommy because they believe that kicking the shit out of Tommy deterred other people from showing up to the event. Now, whether or not that's true, it doesn't really matter. What matters is Antifa believes that it was an absolute win for them to kick the shit out of Tommy. And what that means is because they believe it's a win, it means they're going to do it again. Okay? So Tommy's got to be real careful in Portland. Like they now have shown Tommy's been antagonizing them for months, but like now they're actively saying we're going to kick the shit out of you, and they'll probably try to do it to anyone else who shows up as well. Yeah, I'll make sure I clip this and we'll tag Tommy in it so he can see it. But honestly, again, W Tommy getting an Antifa mention, Tommy's really pissing them off. It's a W to piss them off for that long. I don't want Tommy to get hurt or anything, and I really do hope he's okay. I heard he got a concussion. But like, you know, W getting an Antifa mention. Here's where they're going to talk about vandalizing a whole bunch of Enterprise rental cars.
That night, many of us learned that an Enterprise rent-a-car facility had been attacked a few days ago for collaborating with IC. It has been well known in Portland since 2020 that Enterprise Rent-A-Car collaborates with IC, but it was only confirmed on a national scale after Chicago officials mentioned it in the recent plate switching scandals there. The news also circulated that one IC agent, Rita Sorrigan, had finally moved out of her home.
That's right. Oh, I had forgotten about this. Jake Lang is going back to Minneapolis on Saturday. Well, that's it. Clear the schedule. I will stream all day on Saturday. It was extremely entertaining for Jake Lang to go to Minneapolis the last time. I'm down to stream all day. You guys want to stream all day on Saturday and watch Jake Lang probably get the shit kicked out of him? I think that'll be... Listen, and again, I don't want anyone to get hurt. I don't want Jake Lang to get the shit kicked out of him, although I do think he could use a good kick in the ass every once in a while, because Jake Lang's kind of one of those guys where, like, he's not really that smart and he does a lot of stupid shit. And sometimes guys like that really do need a swift kick in the ass so they know to stop doing stupid shit. But I don't want Jake Lang to actually get hurt. I don't want him to have any life-threatening injuries or anything like that. I'm just talking about, like, sometimes people just need a good punch to the face. And with men in particular who think they know more than they actually do, sometimes they actually just need to experience some consequences. But I don't want him to get hurt or anything like that. I just want to be entertained.
The news also circulated that one IC agent, Rita Sorrigan, had finally moved out of her home after 2 noise demonstrations had taken place there in recent months. ICE is abducting massive numbers of people, sending them to what are basically concentration camps to perform forced labor. Some of those they kidnap are sent to face considerable risk of death in their countries of origin, exiled to prisons in a country they have never visited, or outright disappeared. ICE agents are openly murdering people who oppose these vile deeds in the streets. The courts and politicians are powerless at best and complicit at worst. Whatever strong words we hear from the mayors of Minneapolis and Portland, they only wish to repair the facade of social peace so that the institutions of power can maintain control. It's likely going to take a revolt on scale much greater than what happened in 2020 to change course. Anarchists could not have manifested the 2020 uprising alone, but bravery is contagious, and we helped to light the beacons that drew people out.
So they are comparing this directly to the BLM riots in 2020. And guys, remember, there's no stop. There's no ending point to what they're doing right now. We just entered February. It's going to get warmer. Okay. When it gets warmer, this is going to get much, much bigger than it is right now. And it's already pretty fucking big. Curious as to why you don't feel atheism is a common threat among leftists, because they're not all atheists. They're just not all atheists. That's a conservative Christian talking point. It's just not true. It's not true, and they don't care about religion. They think that religion is just a coping mechanism to deal with the oppression of capitalism. They do think it'll naturally die off, but I know of very hardcore communists who have spiritual beliefs. Just because someone isn't you might be one of those people who doesn't understand. Just because someone is not a Christian does not mean they are an atheist. Although I have met Christian communists as well. And I have also heard communists say that they actually don't care if people are Christian as long as they're not getting in the way of the communist revolution. So this is a conservative talking point. It's not hinged into reality. I'm very, very sorry. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it.
But bravery is contagious, and we helped to light the beacons that drew people out into open revolt. More recently, the Tulsa takedown protests proved that low-intensity direct action targeting logistics
you know how I know they're not all atheists? There was literally an anti-ICE protest event in a church 2 days ago. Or was that yesterday? I even forget. There was literally just an anti-ICE protest event in a church. Do you know how I know they're not all atheists? Because they've taken over the churches. They're using churches and they're protesting. They had an entire fucking rally in a church. Like, they're not all atheists, guys. Conservative bullshit talking points don't benefit anyone.
More recently, the Tulsa takedown protests proved that low-intensity direct action targeting logistics can bridge the gap between clandestine attacks and symbolic public protest activity. All of us, however we are situated, It's
a fake church. It's not a real church. It's a fake church. Only our church is a real church. No. You don't get to decide what is a fake church and what is a real church, Norman. You don't get to decide that, bro. Was it a church or wasn't it? It's not a real church. It's not a real church. If they're not doing what I want them to do, it must not be a real church. Do you even hear yourselves?
All of us, however we are situated, can do things to pave the way for the changes that we desperately need. As the violence of IC and CBP and borders in general make their way further into the interior, the situation is only going to get worse until we take decisive mass action. But Portland and Minneapolis do not fight alone. Instead of retreating, people are coming together to protect and support each other. More and more are choosing to intervene whenever and wherever the feds appear. For better or worse, this is only the beginning. An anti-IC protester holds up a sign reading,
Wait, for better or worse, this is only the beginning. I think that's a great place to end the stream today. I think that's pretty great. All right, guys, we have been reading some Antifa propaganda today. Again, the website that we look at all the time is CrimeThink, because CrimeThink tells us what is being disseminated to Antifa nationwide. I'm going to do a little bit of a shorter stream right now because I am anticipating, according to this anyway, let me just make sure this is still, yep. Mercado Media is saying he's going to be streaming some noise protest in a couple hours. So I am anticipating that I am going to be streaming a noise protest in a couple hours. I don't know if this is actually going to happen. Are they still in their little, looks like BG on the scene is filming this. What is going on here? Oh, the memorial. Oh, shit. I might actually have to look at this. Oh, there's a lot of people there. There's a lot of people there. So what I'm going to do, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this stream. I'm going to take a little bit of a break. I want to remind everyone that Mac B is doing movie night in the supporter Discord tonight. I believe he's starting the show Fallout tonight. So I want to encourage everyone who wants to go watch Fallout with Mac B, join the supporter Discord. That will start at 9 p.m. tonight. I am probably going to come back a little bit later. I don't want to watch this memorial right now because, quite frankly, I don't really care. Like, I want to watch the noise protest later. So when the noise protest streaming starts, I will start that. But I do want to encourage people, if you want to go watch Fallout with Mac B in the supporter Discord, W's for J. Lou over on Rumble for the membership. I appreciate you gifting that channel membership, bro. If you want to go watch episode 1 and 2 of Fallout Season 1, MacB will be showing that in the supporter Discord. I want to encourage people to go and watch that because if you want to, and don't leave it to come watch the protest coverage. You can do both at the same time. I can only do one. You can do both, okay? So hang out with MacB. Go watch Fallout. I think it's a really good idea. And I'm going to go take a little bit of a break, and I will be back in a little bit to do noise protest coverage. And until then, good folks, I bid you adieu. Adieu. Parting is such sweet sorrow. I will see you guys in a little bit. Take care. Have a good one. We'll see you soon.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
how is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.